Hi, it's Nick from the Run Testers, and this is our comparison of the Adidas Adios Pro 3 and the Nike Alphafly NEXT 2. So what you have here is the kind of latest editions of Nike and Adidas's top long distance racing shoes, big old chunky carbon shoes designed for the long haul. They are both very expensive, but the Alphafly takes the biscuit in that regard. It is £275 in the UK or $275 in the US, whereas the Adios Pro 3 is £225 in the UK or $250 in the US. They're a similar weight. The Alphafly 2 is listed as 249 grams or 8.8 ounces in a UK 9, but I have found that my shoes kind of straddle that. One is 244 grams and one is just over 250, whereas the Adidas is 247 grams or 8.7 ounces, but that's a UK 8.5, so it's slightly lighter in a slightly bigger shoe. The Alphafly is an 8mm drop from heel to toe, whereas the Adidas has a 6.5mm drop, and both of them have heel stack heights that bump right up against the World Athletics limit of 40mm. In terms of design, the Alphafly has an atom knit upper, so it's a structured knit upper, and it's got a lot of reinforcement around the heel in the latest version of the shoe. The midsole is of course the Zoom X foam, Nike's soft and springy PEBA-based foam that's been so popular for many years, and you've also got some Air Zoom pods under the forefoot of the shoe. In the Alphafly 2 you also have some Zoom X foam running under those Air Zoom pods. That's a big new addition to the second edition of the shoe. Obviously there's a full length carbon plate in there, and you can see quite a lot of it with a kind of expanded midsole cutout on the new shoe. And then when it comes to the outsole, you've got good forefoot coverage and two strips at the back. In the classic design from Nike shoes, it's a slightly thinner outsole material than on the previous version of the shoe, and it's got a new outsole pattern to provide good grip when you're racing. In general, the shoe is slightly more stable than the Alphafly 1 with a wider base. That's a key feature actually also of the Adios Pro 3, where Adidas has really widened up the shoe, especially around the forefoot, to create more stability, which is obviously important because they do like a big midsole cutout around the shoe. Adidas, you've got a very sculpted midsole on the Adios Pro 3 with lots of cutouts. The upper is a thin mesh material, slightly scratchy feeling mesh material that really does come to quite a sharp point at the front there. You've got a bit of cushioning around the heel and this slightly odd heel flap which you can put up to maybe hug your Achilles, but I've always preferred having it down on my runs. The midsole is Light Strike Pro, Adidas's top foam, and you've got a redesigned kind of carbon tech inside the latest version of the shoe. So the energy rods, the 5 energy rods that run under the forefoot of the shoe, are now run all the way back in the shoe to the small kind of carbon plate that is under the heel. Now in the previous version of the shoe you had the little plate and the rods, but they weren't connected. They're all now connected. It creates a better transition, slightly stiffer ride all round. It's a dual density midsole foam, so you've got 2 layers of Light Strike Pro foam with slightly different tunings to them, although it's quite hard to feel the difference if you're just going on touch. The outsole has continental rubber at the forefoot, the key area where you want the most grip on your toe off, and then a slightly thinner, tacky material but with quite good outsole coverage in general, so you're not going to be hitting too much exposed foam on the run. The drop has been reduced to 6.5mm on the latest version of the Adios Pro 3, which gives a bit, and there's more kind of stack under the forefoot to create a more comfortable feeling there, and then you've got this very aggressive, sharp toe spring angle at the front of the shoe there, as opposed to the slightly more kind of smooth curve on the Alphafly 2. So the Alphafly has this kind of booty design with the tongue built into the shoe, and it's got these 2 pull tabs to kind of help you pull it on. It's slightly tricky to get on at times, but I found that once it was on, it was very comfortable, had a really secure hold all round, and the reinforced heel does hold the heel tightly in place on the run, so yeah, I had no problems with the Alphafly in my normal size. The Adios is a little bit different. Like I said, this is a UK 9.5, which is not my normal size. It was just happened to be what I was sent by Adidas for reviews, and it fits me perfectly, so I'm quite glad that they did go half a size up. I think that's particularly true around the toe box, where you've got this real sharp narrowing there, and I think in my normal size it might have been a bit tight on my toes, so I'm glad to have the extra space there. The fit in general is okay for me, and I've had no problems around the heel, but I have seen reports of people struggling a little bit with this slightly strange heel, and the upper material in general is a bit kind of scratchy. I don't really know why they've done that, but like I say, I've had no problems, but you've got to think a little bit more about fit in this shoe, and I was very happy half a size up, probably happier than I think I would have been in my normal size in the shoe. So I've done over 90k in the Alphafly now and over 80k in the Adios Pro 3. That's included some long, hard training sessions and long runs in both, and some races or all-out efforts in both shoes. So the Adidas I didn't really like at first. I will say that straight off the bat. Like, first run was a hard session at a park run where I did 5k straddling the park run, doing those 5k's either side around marathon pace and then pushing all out in the park run, and the shoe felt just a bit stiff, bit unforgiving, not very nimble or well suited to the faster 5k pace in the middle, and then not that enjoyable cruising along around the marathon pace either side either. However, since then the shoe has softened a little bit. I think it breaks in slightly after that first 20k or so, and also I was a bit ill that day and I've been better since and enjoyed my running in the shoe a lot more. I've done a couple of longer runs in it, doing 15 miles around 6-minute mile pace, and a progression 9 miler last night where I went from 6-minute mile pace down to around kind of 5:35, 5:40 per mile pace, and enjoyed those a lot more in it than I have done when I pushed to kind of 5k, 10k race paces. It's got a very comfortable, very bouncy ride. It is, I mean, it rides like it looks. It's a big old cruise ship of a shoe. This kind of really aggressive toe spring didn't really come into play for me at all. I thought that would create quite an aggressive ride, but no, it's very soft, bouncy, and best at those kind of marathon pace efforts, I think, when you're cruising along around there rather than trying to push too hard. It is pretty stable as well. It's more stable than the Adios Pro 2, although I think it loses a little bit of the speed and nimbleness of the previous generations of this shoe and kind of replaces them with more comfort and more energy return. I think the lower drop has helped as well, making it more comfortable. Like especially when I did 15 miles, pretty hard at a reasonable steady effort. In the Adios Pro 2, that kind of run, I'd have ended up with a little bit of forefoot discomfort by the end, but none of that in this shoe. It's got a smoother transition from heel to toe, less snappy one, and it's more comfortable, and you get a bit more kind of spring from it as a result. I also done a session where I went down to slightly quicker paces, sub 5:30 per mile at times, doing 2-mile reps and comparing it to the New Balance Supercomp Pacer, which is a low stack super shoe, and this is just better than that kind of shoe, I think. Like, it's more comfortable, it's bouncier, you can hit the speeds just as easily in the shoe, and it's actually more easy to maintain them long term. And all of that is true of the Alphafly as well. This really is a shoe that just feels supremely bouncy and comfortable underfoot, kind of whatever pace you're running at. Like I used this straight away for a very hard session for me, where I ran 5k at kind of 3:30 per k pace, then did 8 hard hill reps, and then did a 3k at 3:20 per k pace. So moving from the marathon pace towards the start of the session, and then down towards kind of 10k half marathon pace after those hill reps, and it just felt so strong and powerful, this shoe. I think every time I pulled on the shoe to try and run fast, it does give you a feeling of almost invincibility. Like, it is big and it is weird, but as soon as you start running fast in it, it feels surprisingly natural on the foot and just really explosive, the amount of energy return you're getting from the foam and the plate in this shoe. I've done a park run in it all out, although that was a bit ruined by a ridiculous headwind in the first half and then a great tailwind in the second half, but by which point I was too tired. But I did finish that running very strong with the tailwind. I've also done a 5-mile race during a busy week of marathon training, and I ended up PBing around 26:12, and it just felt really, really strange but very good in that race. Like, there was certainly, like, in that kind of 3rd and 4th miles, I was really tiring, and I was just going, this shoe's going to start to feel too big and annoying at any minute now, and it just never did. Like, it kept just picking up my feet, getting a good amount of bounce back, and just kept rolling on at a pace that was faster than I expected, really all round. And I do think that's what it does. You always got to trust the shoe and just let it do its work. You are going to run well in it, and even if it does feel a bit unnatural or weird, or you're worried it's going to feel big, just doesn't really. It just feels great when you're on good surfaces, straight lines ideally, or gentle curves. That's really what it does best, because it's not the most stable. The Adios Pro 3 is a lot more stable, I think, generally, but neither are great at taking turns at speed, but the Alphafly can be a bit squiggly, especially on slightly slick roads. I've also done a 20 miler in the shoe, and that was just all run to feel on a nice undulating route out in the countryside. It felt fantastic. Ended up running like 3:56 per k without just even feeling it at all. And that's the other thing it does. It does make a good fast pace just feel almost effortless. There's another long run I did where I just hit a straight patch, and I decided to just up my effort to, based on heart rate and feel, not really look at the pace. And I was just cranking out kind of 3:25 a k, marathon pace, slightly quicker than marathon pace for me, just out even really feeling it for like a kind of 5-6k extended spell. It's the aim of both of these shoes is to make those kind of race paces feel easier, and they both do it to a certain extent. I think the Nike probably ends up just being a little bit more explosive from the Zoom X foam and pods combination in the shoe. So I think both Nike and Adidas has done pretty good jobs with the latest versions of their super shoes, especially when it comes to marathon running. They are both shoes that will help you run fast marathons in more comfort, with fresh legs at the end, and if you can afford to use them for training as well, they will help protect your legs during long training runs, help you bounce back and do another run the following day, that kind of thing. They are both, I'd say, surprisingly comfortable and almost feel surprisingly natural on the foot when you are running around marathon pace. And then I think the Alphafly has just got that little bit more versatility in how good it feels at faster paces as well. It still probably wouldn't be my top pick for 5k and 10k when you're looking at twisty courses in particular, but if you do line up a nice long straight event or a gentle loop, then it's really hard to top the Alphafly at kind of any speed, just because the foam is so good, the combination with the plate and the pods just gives you such an explosive ride that it really does work for almost for any distance, whereas I haven't really been convinced by the Adios Pro 3 that short stuff. It still does it well, like all these carbon shoes do it well, but certainly with an Adidas's range, if you're looking for a shoe to do that kind of shorter event, shorter reps, the Takumi Sen would be the better option there. Over the long distances, it's pretty close to call between these two shoes, and obviously the Adidas is a lot cheaper, 50 quid or $25, slightly strange conversion in prices at times. They're really good shoes, both of them for the marathon. The Adidas in particular, it does feel very comfortable to me, and I've really relished doing long runs in it, and my legs just feel fantastic afterwards. But that is also true of the Alphafly, and I think it's probably, I just think Zoom X foam is just a little bit better than Lightstrike Pro foam in terms of the energy return you get. So it is very close, and if you're lining up a big marathon, then you'd be tempted to make the saving and get the Adidas instead. But I probably, if money was no object, would be saying the Alphafly for the marathon, and really for any distance race, I think it's just a slightly more impressive shoe for me in the way it rides. But yeah, both very good. I don't think you'll be very unhappy with either of them. There's probably a few more concerns about the fit on the Adidas, but if you can get past those, or they aren't a problem for you, then yeah, it's a fantastic shoe for long races. That's it guys, that's our comparison of the Adios Pro 3 and the Nike Alphafly 2. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Please go check out our multi-tester reviews of both shoes. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.